Oh,
She'll say something.
now I'd like to ask Mayor Hernandez to join me here and ask her to say a few words in representing the city of Port Hueneme. What? Oh,
Thank you, Honorud. What a glorious afternoon, is it not? Beautiful. 20 years ago today, I, along with members of the Ventura County Emergency Operations Team, received that fateful call that a plane crash had occurred off our coast. We responded immediately and began working closely with the 73 plus agencies that were needed to help with the response and recovery. Today, I am honored to be here as the mayor of Port Hueneme to welcome you to this glorious afternoon and honor and commemorate the lives lost and the lives touched by this tragedy. So on behalf of the city of Port Hueneme, I'd like to welcome all of you, friends and families of Alaska Flight 261. I hope you find comfort, love, and solace in what we consider a sacred place and a sacred gathering. For the past 20 years, we have joined at this location, known to the Shumash as a resting place. We have come here to grieve. We have come here to reconnect. We have come here to show love, but most importantly, we have come to lift you up, you, the families. This year, we will not only celebrate the lives of the 88 passengers who died in this crash, but the commitment to aviation safety. So I'd like to thank our first responders who are here today and those who could not be here today, all at the local, the state, and the federal level, the Ventura County Sheriff's Department, the Ventura County Office of Emergency Services, Ventura County Fire Department, the Federal Fire Department, U.S. Coast Guard, military, NTSB, Alaska Airlines, all the private local nonprofit agencies, the American Red Cross, too many to name, as I said, 73. We are honored to be here. We're honored to be part of your family. And I just wanted to end this by saying, you know, we do after action reports after tragedies like this, and this is certainly the most tragic one we suffered here in Ventura County. And we talk about lessons learned. And one of the lessons that I learned here from all of you was the importance of love and comfort that we provide to each other. And we hope to do that in the continuing years from here on out. We've learned to love you. I hope you've come to love us because we are truly family. And I hope that you feel at home here with all of us as we do with you. So with that, I'd like to invite my colleague, Sue Warner-Bean, who was here 20 years ago as well, representing Alaska Airlines at the time.
I am now retired from Alaska Airlines, but I am here as a proxy for all of those in the company, the literally hundreds of people whom you may never know, who responded because they care very deeply about each of the families and friends who were affected. I'm here to introduce our next speaker. Sharon Bryson is the Managing Director of the National Transportation Safety Board. She's the Senior Career Executive in the agency. In her 23 years at the NTSB, Sharon has served in a number of key leadership roles, always with the conviction that safety is first and foremost and always about people. But there are a few other things that you should know about Sharon. First, she started her career working in the NTSB career, working in the Office of Transportation Disaster Assistance, and was instrumental in building that program. Second is that she was promoted to director of that department very unexpectedly at the end of her workday 20 years ago on January 31st, 2000. Of course, 3 hours later, having just taken over the department, she got the call about Flight 261 and immediately flew to California to coordinate the multi-agency response on behalf of the NTSB. For all of us who had the amazing privilege of working with Sharon, she was a rock, a guide, a wise, steadying, compassionate presence with singular clarity of purpose to serve each of you, the families and loved ones of those on board. There's one more thing. Sharon has an amazing resume. She's the first woman to hold the position of managing director at the NTSB. She's the first non-investigator in that role, and I'm also very certain that she's the first licensed mental health practitioner to fill that role. Yet, for all of her accomplishments, Sharon says that the single greatest honor of her career was building the Family Assistance Program at the NTSB and watching it grow. In her words, nothing will ever top the honor of working with families. It is my deepest privilege and honor to introduce NTSB Managing Director Sharon Bryson.
Thank you for inviting me to be with you at today's memorial event. I apologize I didn't have my notes in very good order, so I hope they don't blow away. But if they do, I'm going to leave the notes and speak from the heart, so hopefully that'll go okay like you. It is really an honor to reconnect with the 261 family members. 20 years younger, and I have to cover my gray hair now, but I was there in the family center in the very first family briefing and throughout the time that we were gathered in that particular location. Reconnecting with the local first responders and this absolutely remarkable community and the Alaska Airlines team. On behalf of the NTSB, and when I told the chairman and a number of the other folks back at headquarters that I was coming here, they asked me to once again extend their deepest sympathies. There are many still working in the agency who were here as a part of that investigative team. This accident in particular, it's interesting to hear you talk about the improvements in transportation safety. And at first I thought I would come and talk about all the safety improvements, because as the managing director, that's typically what I'm doing, is talking about those kind of things. But I have a sense that there's something else really important that you did that you may not be aware of. And so I want to share that with you. As you might expect, the NTSB arrived on the night of January 31st after having worked all day and then flown cross country. But we came here with a full team of very experienced investigators, and you met many of those investigators throughout the investigative process. What you may not know, and Sue just shared that a little bit, that I took over as the director of the Victim Assistance Program about 3 hours before I got the call for this accident. What you might not know is that when we showed up here, that Victim Assistance Program that was required by law in 1996 was in its infancy. And perhaps it's good that you didn't know that on the night that we showed up here, but we were still learning at that particular point in time. I had the privilege of leading that team, and I mention it to you because in addition to all the difference that you made in the area of transportation safety, I would like you to know the huge impact you've had on others around the world. Yes, you have touched the lives, not only of folks here in this great community, but thousands of other people when they've been faced with very similar tragic events. You see, this program, which is now recognized and it's used around the world, this particular model called Transportation Disaster Assistance, those lessons learned here, because it was in its infancy, helped shape this assistance program, which has become the model for other federal agencies, other transportation industries, and the international aviation community. The Federal Bureau of Investigation's Victim Assistance Program is modeled out of this, which was learned in large part by the things that we gathered from you as you were sharing with us what you needed and what it would take to be able to be helpful and supportive to you. We learned some very key things while we were working to assist you in the aftermath of this tragic event. First, a trained and responsive company like Alaska Airlines, was absolutely critical. And I don't know where Brad is, but the compassion of the organization, the culture of the organization makes and made then a very big difference. Second, a community willing to assist the victims and family members was critical as well. And I have, since 1997, traveled to most of the large transportation disasters in the country. I've been in a number of communities here, and I can tell you that I have not been anywhere where the community was as responsive and supportive and put their arms around the family members in the way that that's done here in this location. So I think that makes a huge difference in terms of families. And the last thing we found was a coordinated program focused solely on the family members and the needs of the victims was essential. That I had to create a program where the only thing we were focusing on were what the needs of the family members were. And you showed me the path for that. You showed me how important that was and what needed to happen in order for people who would unfortunately come after you affected by transportation disasters, what they needed in those horrible moments immediately following that tragedy. So thank you to the wonderful members of this community. It's great to see many of you after not having been here for a period of time, who were there to do anything needed from the very beginning and are still here today wrapping their arms around you. Thank you to the remarkable team of Alaska Airlines for their caring and dedicated response. And thank you to Alaska's leadership team for never forgetting and for always prioritizing safety above all else. I also will mention that the NTSB Training Center, which is located outside of DC, is dedicated to the victims of transportation disasters. We dedicated it in the very beginning so that others could come there and learn how to investigate and how to do victim assistance work. And on the front there's an etching that says, "From tragedy we draw knowledge to improve the safety of us all." We all must remain laser focused. It's my job, but it is my personal commitment to stay focused on safety. The cost for anything less is simply too high. And somebody asked me last night, what keeps you up at night? What keeps me up at night is we miss something or we get it wrong, because the cost is too high to other people for us to not get our work done with regard to that. You know better than anybody the cost of doing anything less than that in terms of focusing on safety. I don't need to tell you how important that is. Again, thank you for the honor of allowing me to be there with you in the immediate aftermath of the accident and to be able to be here with you today. Thank you for your leadership of the group and all that you've done to help bring people together. I think that's been really helpful as well. And so I say Godspeed and safe travels.
Thank you very much. And also, want to say thank you to Laura Hernandez and Sue Warner Bean. And I would like to also recognize Sue's retired Vice President Ed White of Alaska Airlines, and Laura Hernandez for all the work that the family of Alaska they did for Flight 261. And also like to recognize the Alaska 261 care team and the current care team members that are here today. So please stand to be recognized. Erlene?
I would like to introduce an FAA administrator. Her name is Raquel Gervin, and She is the Western Pacific regional administrator. And thank you for that.
Thank you, Arlene. Thank you for the opportunity to represent the federal administration and our administrator, Steve Dixon, here today at this important memorial service. Some events are seared so profoundly into our memories that we recall exactly where we were and what we were doing when we found out about them. I was actually living in Tokyo, Japan, when I heard that Alaska Flight 261 had gone down off the coast near where we're standing today. Although I was thousands of miles away in a foreign country, this accident deeply affected me as an American, as an air traveler, and as an aerospace engineer. 2 decades ago, our safety oversight system was not as forward-looking as it is today. And out of tragedies, lessons were inevitably learned. And Alaska Flight 261 was no exception. And clearly all the commitment that we've heard today to safety is clearly an indication of that. This accident thrust the term jackscrew into the public into the public consciousness. But it was about far more than one single component. It taught the FAA and indeed the entire airline industry critical lessons about aircraft maintenance, quality assurance, and responding to emergencies. The FAA worked closely with the National Transportation Safety Board on the accident investigation, and we undertook a host of initiatives in response to the findings, ranging from establishing a new office to oversee Alaska Airlines, to requiring changes to aircraft component lubrication procedures. And we didn't stop there. During the past 2 decades, we have dramatically transformed how we approach airline safety oversight. In the past, we tried to learn and make changes from accidents that had already occurred. Today, we have evolved to a much more complex, comprehensive, and sophisticated oversight system that analyzes volumes of data to flag potential safety trends and implement fixes before they result in an accident. Because of this fundamental shift in our approach and the willingness of the airlines, including Alaska Airlines, to share important safety information with us, the U.S. commercial aviation system is experiencing the safest period in world transportation history. But we know that continued success depends on us never becoming complacent. This is our pledge to you from the FAA, to the Alaska Flight 261 families, and to the entire traveling public. We will never stop trying to get better at what we do. We will never stop refining our safety processes, and we will never be satisfied with where we are today. Thank you very much again for the opportunity to be part of this service.
Thank you, Rachel. I'd like to call Murray Hall, Erlene, and Jay up again.
This was supposed to be an introduction of Doug Murphy, retired FAA regional manager. He could not be here with us today because of an ailing mother. My name is Mary Hall. I lost my daughter Megan, her boyfriend Ryan Sparks, and her best friend Rachel Janosic on Flight 261. A number of Alaska 261 family members gathered together with a common concern for air safety. Our goal was to ensure that loved ones did not die in vain, but their deaths would act as a catalyst for improved safety procedures. To that end, we contacted FAA Head Administrator Marion Blakey, urging her to respond to the NTSB aircraft accident report. Douglas Murphy, Regional Administrator of the FAA Northwest Mountain Division in Renton, Washington, graciously met with us and reviewed the NTSB report. He was in constant contact with Ms. Blakey and relayed our concerns in detail. We met numerous times and with Doug over the next few years, and he updated us on the actions taken by the FAA and the NTSB for each recommendation. His qualified, knowledgeable, straightforward explanations and his empathy for our group were invaluable and greatly appreciated. The Alaska Flight 261 crash generated more recommendations by the NTSB than any previous crash, and has issued flight standards for airworthiness, resulting in improved training and procedures for pilots, mechanics, and inspectors. Our continued hope is that the FAA will improve its oversight of airlines to ensure a safer environment for all passengers. Men like Doug Murphy and the professionals gathered here today make a difference. Thank you.
So, Mary Hall, Erlene Shaw, and how am I forgetting his name right now? Jay Ryan. He's so forgetful. And some other family, Bushies were involved. There was a lot of family members that were involved, and they had a lot of meetings, and they really made a difference. And so, I personally would like to thank them too, because without them pursuing all the folks out there and calling them daily sometimes, wouldn't have got things done. So they did a great job. So I'd like to get another round of applause for them, please. Thank you.